All right, thank you all very much. We will now convene this committee session of the Committee of Health and Human Services. We will be receiving an update from our incredible Office of Food System Resilience and Food Security. Many of us have been hearing their updates through various avenues and platforms, and let me just once again express my deepest appreciation for your commitment and your strategic planning. I feel that we as a jurisdiction are in a much better position than many other jurisdictions across the country to weather this very challenging storm. But with that, I will turn it over to you, Ms. Clemens-Johnson, just to tee this up, and then turn it over to Ms. Bruskin and her team to walk us through the presentation.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair Albornoz, and good afternoon to the rest of the council members. I won't go into much detail. I want to thank Ms. Bruskin and the staff in her office. They always provide information timely once asked, so I really appreciate that. In your staff report, we are doing a general overview from FY25, and of course, highlighting some of the priority issues that we have been discussing within the last three months. I will note that Mrs. Bruskin did a presentation October 14th, providing an update on the federal landscape, discussing SNAP and some of the other changes and how that will impact county residents. So I'm sure we'll touch on that a bit, but we are highlighting the programs, namely the numerous grant programs that are managed by her office. I also wanted to highlight that the office produced an impact report. So there is a link to it in your staff report. So I would encourage everyone to review the grant programs, and just want to note that, you know, our grant programs aren't set on our fiscal years. So when we talk about some that are FY24 or FY25, sometime our FY24 grant funded programs don't start until February of 2025. So sometimes the wording might be a little bit off because it's not exactly based on our fiscal year, but mainly when the grant program was funded. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bruskin. I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be together today. I know we have had the opportunity to connect often recently just due to the circumstances and the challenges that are presenting due to federal policy changes. But today is a unique opportunity to, I think, celebrate and showcase a lot of the great work that has been done through county investment in our local food system. And so I think it's a good opportunity to take stock of what is already in the pipeline and the strategy that's behind it that is truly making us stronger in the face of crises just like the one that we're in now. So I am joined by my colleague, Juan Cruz, and a number of the other OFSR team members behind me. There are also representatives from the Capital Area Food Bank and the Food Council here today. So I'll be doing most of the speaking, but everything that is shared truly is a collective effort. So I think we can go ahead and get started with our slides, please. Next one, please. Yeah. Just wanted to start with a summary of our operating budget. It is a combination of contracts with nonprofit organizations and other institutions, grant programs, as well as a few specific programs that the Office of Food Systems Resilience runs. So it's about $13 million every year, or in this past year. I also want to just kind of highlight the variety of strategies that are embedded in our budget and that we have been carefully building over the past few years. And so the presentation today is really structured around these different priorities, whether it is diversifying where our food comes from, to making sure that we always have access to good data that can help us understand what's happening on the ground. These are things that we need in blue sky times and that we definitely need when there are emerging crises in our community. And so we'll look at how this translates into county spending and programs in our presentation today. And so the first one that I want to showcase is diversifying our food supply chain. So I think all of us have seen how, whether it is tariffs or inflation or emergencies that disrupt where our food comes from, there are a lot of challenges in making sure that our community is fed. A lot of the barriers are economic, but there certainly are other challenges to making sure that our community has access to the food that they are looking for. And so that is embedded throughout our budget and the programmatic partnerships that we have, in that we don't want all of our food coming from one place. We want to encourage local production. We want to support the large institutional producers that can feed a large community like ours in volume. And so that in an emergency means that we have a number of different dials, I think, that we can turn up or down as needed, depending on supply and demand. So a great example of that is what our COVID era staples programs turned into, which are ongoing partnerships with the Capital Area Food Bank and Manna Food Center. So the Capital Area Food Bank has a contract with our office that we call the core funding contract. And so that purchases a variety of products, whether it's shelf-stable goods, frozen proteins, as well as produce, that then is distributed throughout the partner network of the Capital Area Food Bank. So that they have access to large amounts of purchasing power that individual organizations can't necessarily on their own procure. And so that means that we have that relationship in place. And certainly I think the circumstances that we're in now are a good example of how having a contract in place means that we can quickly inflate partnerships as needed. The Manna Food Center Staples program supports 15 smaller organizations. So in our constellation of food assistance providers, we have many that are almost exclusively volunteer run. They have the deep community networks and service delivery capacity and talents, but operationally they have limited capacity. And so these organizations order food through partnerships that Manna has. Manna does a lot of the administrative and operational pieces of it, and the organizational partners can do what they do best, which is secure the food that their clients are looking for, and then Manna does the partnership with us in terms of invoicing and all of the logistical pieces. And so what we'll see here is a little bit about one of our community food assistance grant programs.
Voucher as something very valuable because it helps them to provide enough for their family, and it makes it easier to have access to culturally appropriate food.
My name is Bioku Mathieu Jayola. I'm the owner of Wheaton Tropical Market. We have been participating in Manna program for 3 years now, and we appreciate what they brought to our bottom line. The program has helped us reach people who otherwise would have not known us.
So that is a example of one of our community food assistance grant programs. So we can go to the next one, please. Thank you. So this is a partnership with 49 different food assistance provider organizations. They vary tremendously in the format of the services that they provide. Some are choice pantries, others are drive-through distributions, some provide prepared meals. You can also see from the pie chart that they vary dramatically in terms of the amount of money that they get from the county. So this is a flexible program that supports residents in every single zip code in the county. But it means that we have this supported diverse network of organizations that report data to us every single month on what they're seeing. And then it also means that we have a variety of different types of assistance that residents can access depending on what their unique needs are. And so the video was showcasing Manna's program as part of this that's funded through this grant program, where they work with partner organizations to identify residents who are looking for particularly culturally relevant foods. And these are local small businesses, these grocery stores that then the residents that participate in the program get a voucher to go shop at that store and secure items that would not be available at most food assistance distributions. And it also invests that money back in our local economy so that we are supporting those businesses, and in addition to the residents that are getting the food access support. Just also want to kind of underscore the community food assistance collective impact. So all of these grantees are required to report on the same data. Some of them report more depending on how much money they're receiving, but we also partner with them to administer resident feedback surveys that we then aggregate, report to the organization on what their participants are saying, but then it also provides information to us to know what's working and where there might be some refinements needed. I think it's also important to note that this program, which just for context is about $3.5 million per year, 32% of the food that is purchased through that program is from local retailers and county farms. And so while we certainly need to rely on other places for our food, I think the more that we can reinvest our county dollars into the economy through the service delivery system, it has a double return on investment. But there's over 700 different services delivered every single month across all of these partners. And it's hard to tell across the partner network if there are residents who are going to multiple sites, but in general, there's 300,000 households that have participated over the course of the last year.
The Montgomery County Farm to Food Bank program, facilitated by Manna Food Center, supports the purchasing of fruits, vegetables, meat, and eggs from Montgomery County-based farmers. This year-round program schedules several food runs each week from county farms to recipient agencies for their distributions.
I'm Janice Smith from St. Mark's Episcopal Church. We have been here in the Fairland community for over 200 years. We've always been active with some kind of a food assistance program, but in the past couple of years it's really expanded.
The Farm to Food Bank program purchased just under 160,000 pounds of food last year from over 30 farmers and reached over 70 food assistance providers.
Mm-hmm. So the Farm to Food Bank program is a contract partnership that started during the pandemic and expanded every year after that. And so in addition to the Farm to Food Bank program, which has 35 food assistance provider partners and over 25 farms in the county that they purchase from, we also have a contract with Community Farm Share that aggregates products from Montgomery County farms and then distributes them through a choice market that is operated outside of schools and other healthcare sites. And so they support over 200 families weekly with this choice market, which also is not exclusively for no-cost participants, but also the folks that work in those schools and in those healthcare sites can go and shop. And it's it's local product that's available at a reasonable rate. And so it also invests in the economy. And so this year we're rolling out, I guess, a food recovery strategy that is expanded and revamped, recognizing that we are supporting local farms, local retailers, food assistance sites, but also we need to tackle the challenge of food waste at the same time that we connect all of those products back into our food assistance pipeline, because there's a lot of good food that's out there. We just need to have the systems in place to capture it and redirect it to residents in need. And so we've taken a three-pronged approach to that this year. Our community food assistance grants, which I hope the announcements will go out probably tomorrow to our grantees, included for the first time our partner organizations can get money to do food recovery operations. In the past, we've exclusively provided funding for them to buy food and then distribute it. And now they can also recover food and distribute that as well. And those are cost-intensive programs, but they also have very low food costs. So we just needed to make the budgets more flexible. We've also given 4 organizations infrastructure grants to do for storage that's on site, for transportation and their waste management. We also have had the opportunity to partner with Morning Morningstar Foundation to leverage some additional funds for infrastructure investments in our food recovery partnerships that's being administered by the Food Council. So I think that's a great example of how if we put a little bit of funding into something, it often unlocks private sector funding as well. And then finally, we have just wrapped up our coordination grant. So this is building on the great work that Manna Food Center has done over the past 10 years in running the Community Food Assistance Grant Program. And so we will have an independent coordinator who will take all of these organizations that have received grants for infrastructure and for operating and coordinate them as a network with regular meetings, with resource sharing, and donor recruitment tools that we can then use to pump more food into our assistance system. And so before we move on, I think Ms. Clemens-Johnson and I had talked about taking a pause just to see if there were any questions about what we've talked about, but happy to move on, but just wanted to create that space.
Why don't we finish the presentation, then we can ask questions in the end.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. I'd like to highlight our MC Groceries program. So this is an initiative that provides access for retail shopping funds to families that fall into that SNAP gap. So we have 150,000 residents in our county who make too much to cover their basic costs of living, and yet they don't make enough to cover their basic costs of living, but they make too much to qualify for federal benefits programs. And so we've gotten some really rich stories from the program participants about how this has impacted their families. And we've showcased 2 of those stories here. But what we hear is that these are working families who, when they get a promotion, the parent then gets additional income that's just a small amount, and then that sends them off what we call the benefits cliff. And then they no longer are getting assistance with their healthcare costs or their food costs. And so the MC Groceries program steps in to support those families in those times. Similarly, we have a family that is a Muslim family that shared that halal products are very difficult to get, even though we focus on that in our food assistance programs. And if they were shopping for them at local stores, they were particularly expensive or hard to find. And so the MC Groceries program, being a partnership with Instacart, allows them to shop from stores in a wider geographic area so that they can then find the retailer that will be able to deliver the products that they're looking for to their home. And so these are just some of the details of the first year that just wrapped up this summer. And there were 550 families that participated, covering 1,100 children. So it's $100 per child per month. And we're expanding that program this year slightly in order to hopefully support 650 families with this benefit. And some of the program impacts that we saw after the pre and post survey responses were compared, there was an increase in employment among participants. The things that they are purchasing are fruits and vegetables. 99% of them felt that the program helped them access more of what they wanted and needed. And we also saw a direct change in the 15% of participants who had been using rides from friends or walking or public transportation to get to the grocery store. Now we're using grocery delivery instead. So really getting at that time barrier that a lot of our participants experience. If you are working multiple jobs, if you have children, it is very difficult to use public transportation to go to the grocery store. And so this saves their time. And finally, our data collection has told us a little bit about who participates in this program. So in addition to them being working families, we also see that most of these families had not been seeking or hadn't been receiving food assistance in the past month. I spoke with a caseworker recently who's been enrolling families in the program, and she had asked, when we sent you the original email to enroll, why didn't you respond? And they said, well, I thought that it was a hoax. I've never been qualified for assistance before. I didn't believe that something like this was out there. And so I think that this shows that we're reaching a lot of families who otherwise were not connected to the assistance pipeline. Predominantly residents of color who also English, Spanish, and Amharic are the 3 most widely spoken languages.
Our program conducts 2 farm markets per week, one in Gaithersburg, the other in Silver Spring. we conduct a market style so families have the flexibility to select the vegetables that are culturally relevant and, most importantly, liked by their children. In addition to weekly fresh vegetables, we also provide our families with a monthly box of shelf-stable foods and frozen proteins. In addition to our food offering, we provide quarterly nutrition classes, weekly health tips and recipes, and grocery store tours to help families learn to stretch their dollar while still making healthy choices. Our program is a collaboration with Adventist Healthcare, Manna Foods, One Acre Farm, Mercy Clinic, Mary Center, and Giant Foods. Together over the past 6 months, we have provided food and nutritional education to 271 Montgomery County households, consisting of 526 children. With 23,000 pounds of food distributed, we are making a significant impact in the lives of the families facing food insecurity.
Thank you. And so that just underscores how choice is such an important component of food access strategies and retail access initiatives that allow residents to shop, like the voucher program, or at the mobile markets that Community Farm Share operate, or a market just like that one that Adventist is sponsoring as part of the Food is Medicine program, really enables residents with the ultimate choice of what products they're accessing that align with their family's particular preferences and needs.
Hi, my name is Kelly Copin. I'm the Maryland Market Money Specialist. Maryland Market Money, or MMM, is a statewide food access program of the Maryland Department of Agriculture that helps Marylanders buy fresh, local food and supports our farmers.
Hello, I'm Brandon with Scenic View Orchards out of Sibyllesville, Maryland. Our farm has been part of the Gaithersburg Farmers Market for over 30 years. Programs like the Maryland Market Money help our farm a great deal. It's helped us expand the produce that we can offer, and it helps those families so that they can buy fresh and local produce.
With support from Montgomery County's OFSR grant, MMM provides a dollar-for-dollar match for customers using federal nutrition benefits such as SNAP, FMMP, and WIC at participating farmers markets, farm stands, and CSAs. Our goal is simple: to feed Marylanders and strengthen local farms.
So farmers markets are key access points for our residents around the county. And so the Maryland Market Money Program is a great example of a partnership that we can hopefully lean into during times like right now. And so we've been in conversations with them about how, even though there in November will be no SNAP dollars to match, we can leverage that contract that we have with Maryland Market Money to still provide shoppers whose SNAP benefits are not on their cards the opportunity to source some items, particularly in the month of Thanksgiving. So in addition to Maryland Market Money, which supports 9 farmers markets across the county, we also have a contract with Crossroads, which does incredible work deeply in the Long Branch community. And they also have been a really valuable partner in tracking what's happening in terms of foot traffic and fears at farmers markets. So overall, they reported that their spending at the market year over year with 24 to 25 was consistent. However, September 2024 to September 2025 showed a 50% drop in SNAP purchases at that market, as well as 50% drop in overall sales. And so I think that underscores how these are critical food access points in our community that we need to both show up and support, but also that we need to find creative ways to connect residents to the fresh fruits and vegetables that they provide. The Crossroads is also a key partner in a lot of our other grant programs where participants in Food is Medicine programs or other programs receive spending dollars that they can then take to the farmers market. So I think it just underscores the circular economy elements of a lot of these programs.
Community Engagement and Consultation Group is a nonprofit organization established in 2017. We have been fortunate enough to receive funding in 2025 from the Montgomery County Office of Food Systems Resilience for the Food is Medicine program, which helps support our outreach efforts as well as our nutrition and kidney health workshops. These workshops offer culturally responsive guidance on nutrition, kidney health, and overall well-being, helping participants make healthier food choices while honoring their traditions. To date, we have engaged a total of 128 families through this initiative.
I think we can skip this one. I think it's longer. I just talked about Crossroads. Thank you. CECG is one of our partners in our nutrition benefits outreach grant program. And so that is where we invest in 6 different organizations that provide outreach and enrollment support in the community, not just for SNAP, but also programs like WIC and Sunbucks. And we hear very consistently that residents are concerned about going to government-operated sites to ask for information about benefits that they may or may not be eligible to receive. And so these grants allow us to invest in programs, in organizations that do this work. And not only is there fraud that's out there in terms of benefits being stolen from participants, but we also consistently hear that there are in communities people charging to help people sign up for programs like SNAP. And so the more that we have embedded community organizations that can share accurate information and can support residents, that will allow us to really expand whatever federal dollars are available to support residents. It's also really important that we have more ears to the ground in terms of what is happening in the community, questions around SNAP, and they all have their own client bases that are calling them and getting information. And so as we navigate the time ahead where SNAP dollars are not necessarily on people's accounts, we can help quickly get information out to the community, and they're directly informing the work of government. They've also been helpful partners in supporting referrals to MC Groceries and our other grant programs to make sure that people are maximizing all the different benefits that are out there. Thank you. Before I move from nutrition benefits, I wanted to talk just briefly, too, about how it's important to note that the administrative cost shifts that are happening to our state government related to SNAP outreach are also happening to our to our nutrition benefit grantees. And so that 50-50 split will now be 75% the organization needs to fund their own work and 25% from the federal government. So we're very closely watching the budget gaps that are going to be occurring with those organizations very soon.
Benjamin Banneker Middle School here in Silver Spring, and here with us I have the coordinator, Ms. Carmen.
At Benjamin Banneker Middle School, we give away, through Ms. Henley's help, 100 bags of food. This is every Monday, and so students get to take home their bag. It's not only for them, but it's for their families as well. And so especially with the government shutdown going on and people losing their jobs, this is very essential for our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And so our school-based food assistance grant program it has expanded significantly this past year due to additional funds that were added to our FY26 budget. This supports programs at 99 schools, and those are coordinated one by one in partnership with some colleagues at MCPS. We identify what the school's unique needs are for their student population in terms of service type, format, frequency, and then match them with a grantee food assistance provider to provide that support. And so you'll see here the Up County Hub and their distribution at Harriet Tubman Elementary School earlier this year. And so these are ways to, again, just like our Food is Medicine grant programs, partner with trusted locations for our families. Here it's the schools. And so we can on site make sure that those families are getting the food assistance that they need. Our Food is Medicine grant program supports partnerships between healthcare providers. So pediatricians are required to do food insecurity screenings at the annual wellness check. And so in the partner locations, the healthcare provider screens for food insecurity if they are a family that is at risk of diet-related disease, or directly, if the patient is directly experiencing diet-related disease, they're enrolled in the Food is Medicine program. If they're not, they're then referred to one of our other food assistance partners instead. We have 2 hospital systems, 8 school-based health centers, a variety of food assistance providers, nutrition educators, and farms. And so this is a great example of how government funding has been able to facilitate partnerships across sectors because we know that oftentimes healthcare providers are seeing the impacts of nutrition insecurity in real time for these families. And so this equips them with additional tools to help those families.
Hi, I'm Victoria Reese. I'm the Food and Wellness Program Manager at Centronia.
The Roots Grant
has allowed us to bring nutrition and wellness to life for over 250 children, families, and staff. In the classroom, our students have been learning about healthy food in a fun and interactive way. This further continuing our goal is ensuring families to adopt a healthy lifestyle necessary to success.
Mm-hmm. So Centronia is one of the organizations that has a contract with our office, and really want to underscore that part of our work is focused on making sure that people have access to food in the moment, but also that we're making investments in their long-term health. And so education is a key component of that. And that's something that we are exploring through our Food as Medicine program and other strategies to make sure that education is incorporated in a lot of our programming as well.
The Montgomery County Food Council is the primary connection point for businesses, nonprofits, government agencies, and residents around food system issues in our county, bringing together over 2,000 local and regional partners and community-wide education, advocacy, and capacity building initiatives. Receiving the county's Nutrition Benefits Outreach Grant has allowed the Food Council to turn our SNAP outreach team into food resource specialists who provide a holistic approach to supporting the food security of our county's families by connecting over 200 households per month to SNAP, WIC, MC Groceries, Sunbucks, school meals, farmers market matching programs, and county food assistance resources.
And so the Food Council has been a critical convener of all of our different grantees across the different programs and subject matter areas. And so one of those areas is food production. And so that can take shape of residents and community gardening, but it also can be our local food producing farms. And two examples of what community food production looks like is our Reach Hub at Loiterman Middle School. They have a contract with our office as well, supporting the work that they're doing related to not just food production that's then sold at a farmer's market and distributed to the families at the schools, but also the education that they're receiving and how you grow food and the nutrition that is associated with the products that they're growing. We also have just wrapped up our FY24 program for resident and community gardening grants. Ultimately, that reached over 1,500 residents and expanded a significant amount of land in the county to food production for residents.
The Reach Hub and Farm is located on the campus of A. Mario Loiterman Middle School in the Wheaton-Glenmont area of Montgomery County. Reach is an initiative of Montgomery County Public Schools and stands for Resilience, Education, Action, Climate Habitat. The Reach Hub and Farm is both an urban school farm and a community resilience hub. The farm produced 2,625 pounds of fresh produce in its first growing season. Of this, 1,315 pounds of produce was sold at the farmers market, and the other half was donated to our nonprofit food assistance partners. Finally, in October, the electrical work was completed, and a 10x10 walk-in cold storage unit was installed. Production is expected to increase threefold next year.
So CKC Farming is doing incredible work there, and I also just want to appreciate the work of MCPS in that partnership and identifying a wide variety of funding opportunities that are available. So our support is just a small portion of that, but it is, again, investing in a much larger project to unlock additional dollars from other sources. Local food aggregation is something that we talk about a lot, but is pretty difficult to get underway. So this is a key component of our three-pronged strategy to grow local food production, to grow demand for those products, and also strengthen the interconnective network of infrastructure that connects the food that's produced to those growing markets. And so we have done a good job of building up small-scale aggregation capacity that primarily supports the food assistance network. So that is cold storage on farms and at food assistance provider sites. But there is a significantly growing and untapped market of institutional buyers. There's 20% of state agency purchases are required to be from Maryland certified farms, but most of them are not anywhere close to meeting those benchmarks because for the most part they report they don't know where to buy the products from. And so our county farmers could tap into those markets, but we need to create the structures for the farmers to be able to sell. And so we don't quite have the ability to launch and report what's happening here, but we anticipate that in the next couple of months we will have the opportunity to launch a grant from the county that is paired with state dollars that will support bringing someone who's experienced in wholesale market connections and working with local farms to access them to take to build up residents right here.
If I could just, so this is incredible. You're doing a phenomenal job, but I want to make sure that we get through the presentation so we can get to the Q&A, and I know there's still about a dozen slides left.
Yep.
So if we could summarize those so we can get to the Q&A, because I know that's what we're really looking forward to.
Yeah, thank you. As we've spoken about before, we have a growing number of partnerships with county agencies. We have a good food purchasing program. I don't want to steal their lead, but our Department of Corrections does incredible work in sourcing values-driven products. And so we just wrapped up the analysis that was done of their work and are leaning into what that looks like to expand it in the coming year. And so there's just lots of great examples of all of the agencies that are involved in food, even though you may not think at first glance that that's a key component, that is what what our office is established to do, is to build those partnerships and get all of our colleagues thinking about their work in the context of the food system. We're also continuing to work with OMHS on building emergency response frameworks. I have just had a conversation with our director of OMHS about, what the public safety and emergency preparedness mechanisms need to be in place for our food system in the coming weeks. And so it's really important to have those muscles regularly working so that when we need to leverage those partnerships, we can. We also continue to partner and serve on a wide variety of coalitions and formal and informal collaboratives to both showcase the great work that's happening here in the county and make sure that we're building bridges, because the work that we do does not stop at our county's borders. And a lot of these initiatives really require cross-jurisdictional partnerships for success.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Cruz. I get a chance to tell you a little bit about how we're able to collect all this information that you've heard from all these slides. So our work, a big component, an essential component, is learning from the insights and experiences of the residents. And so this is just a sample of our client satisfaction survey, which is sent out through our community food assistance grant. It's a satisfaction survey to standardize how food assistance providers evaluate their services. And it's a tool that we've been able to leverage in partnership with the county's Language Access Division. And also it's translated in top 6 languages. Next, we want to tell you a little bit about our evaluation framework that guides a lot of how we measure the impact of our programs. And so one tool that we have is our pre and post surveys to understand how our program impacts residents after receiving services. And so, for example, our food as medicine and our MC Groceries programs really ask questions about hunger, employment, food knowledge, the SNAP eligibility, and household characteristics. Really, we want to keep a continuous feedback loop. These are our process where we observe and we measure how participants experience our services. We synthesize the feedback and apply what we learn to improve program design. And then we restart that cycle and evaluate it again to ensure our programs address the relevant needs of our community. And so we really aim to stay connected with our residents, not only through our services, but continue the feedback loop through other channels of communication. And so whether in times of stability or uncertainty, our goal is to keep residents informed about food assistance resources, updates across the county's food landscape, and really we want to be guided by the voice of our residents and highlight the families, neighbors, and communities we serve. And so I want to now shift the focus a little bit in how we're using the data we're collecting as well across our work. our goal is to turn that information into insight, and we want to provide the context to the stories and experiences we hear from residents. And so over the past 2 years, we've established our OMB annual metrics, which help us measure the progress towards our goals. These metrics reflect how we collaborate with local regional partners, implement policies that strengthen the food system, and guide county investments with data-driven evaluations. Next slide. To tell you a little bit more about the community food assistance feedback, this is one of our key ways to learn directly from our residents. We've collected 1,181 responses, and most of the responses, about half of them, are from Spanish speakers. And so we can see the result of our efforts in really putting rigor and care in the design of our tools. And so we can also isolate these results by food assistance providers and share thoughts, insights with each of the partners. Throughout this program, we identify the foods residents find most helpful. More importantly, we gain deeper understanding on how these services are affecting their everyday life. Recently, the government shutdown and other disruptions in the food landscape prompted us to check in with our partners. And so we wanted to understand what they're seeing in their operations, budget, and distribution lines. And so our findings confirmed our suspicion. Demand for food assistance has grown. The new families and federal workers now turning into distributions for support. And at the same time, we also found areas of stability and resilience within our food system network. We also continue, as part of our data framework, is to develop a set of common impact metrics. These are the efforts to reflect our goals in a cohesive performance framework. And so we want to make sure we share the metrics that allow us to collect consistent, comparable outcomes, bring greater standardization to our reporting and compliance process. Next. And lastly, this is a bit on our analysis. So how do we turn all these reports, all this data, and guide our work? And so we look at where our programs are reaching. So this example is an example where we began by mapping household zip codes reported by our FY25 community food assistance partners. And we overlaid them with the Community Equity Index from the Montgomery Planning. So throughout this analysis, we learned that zip codes 20855, 20895, and 20814 showed medium to low service levels, yet included neighborhoods with medium to high disproportionate disadvantage, as identified by the Community Equity Index. And so analysis like this are made possible through our data and evaluation framework, and so which connects program performance with research to inform our decisions and help reduce inequities in our community.
And so thank you to Juan, not just for being an exceptional colleague and data expert, but also a video editor that has been put his many talents to use. So
thank you.
I think the rest of it you have seen recently, and so would just appreciate the opportunity to answer whatever questions you might have.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that update. I'm constantly blown away. And as a child of the 80s, I loved hearing Phil Collins incorporated into a presentation. We need more of that, executive branch. Great job. So, and I should have done this at the very beginning. Our hearts go out to and our thoughts go out to everyone that's been impacted by the awful hurricanes in our Caribbean and Atlantic region. I am joined by a colleague and friend who is a tremendous leader in our Jamaican community, and she has been feverishly over the last 48 hours texting friends, families, coordinating efforts here locally, and we are with you. Councilmember Sales, we appreciate you, and we will do everything we can to support you and your family and friends during this extremely difficult time. And one of the reasons why she needs to step out at 3 o'clock is to be on a leadership call as she is helping to coordinate efforts here regionally to provide support. So with that, I just had a couple of questions and follow-up. So, gosh, I do sleep a heck of a lot better at night knowing that the work is going on and everyone that is out there. But as you noted in the last slide, we are seeing such a significant increase just in the last several weeks of the number of people requesting assistance, and this has come up in a couple of different forms, but can you talk a little bit more, Ms. Bruskin, about what we're doing over the next several days, over the next several weeks as the government shutdown continues? Our federal friends have now lost their second consecutive paycheck this week, and as we saw from the government shutdown in President Trump's initial term, which lasted 35 days, and it looks like this may last longer than that, we saw an exponential increase across the board, especially among people who had never accessed these types of services before. You very thoughtfully responded to a question recently that was posed to you about not knowing what we don't know in terms of how many more people may be coming forward. But could you just shed a little bit of light on our infrastructure and any concerns or thoughts you have as the Capital Area Food Bank and other critical partners are losing some of their funding, and while we are trying to fill those gaps, we know is going to be outpaced by the need. But your just general thoughts on that.
I appreciate the question, and just first want to start by echoing my thoughts for Councilmember Sales and your leadership and the many things that you're carrying right now. And so thank you for taking a moment to highlight that. So I think that there's a lot that the federal government does that we sometimes, I think, just take for granted as something that will be there. I hope that it will, again, be there, but we do find ourselves in a time when we just can't possibly have the resources at the county or at the state level to close the gap of that emerges when SNAP payments are not there. And so I think, as we've spoken about before, with $12.5 million per month, even the the very generous investment that the county council is making in food security won't even cover 2 weeks of that amount of time. And so I think, I think we have to be strategic with the resources we have. And this is a test of a lot of the frameworks that we have been building for the past few years. And so as we learned during COVID, you can't just flip a switch and expand the amount of food that's in the network. And so that's why we have these diversified strategies and the network that has been established, not just with 1 or 2 or 5 partners, but with 60 different community organizations that each have a different reach, a different strength. And so we can, through the work in particular that the Food Council has been doing, lean on their increased capacity operationally and through inter-network communication to mobilize. And so, I think, as I alluded to before, there have been questions coming up about public safety concerns at distributions. So we can just put out a call to the partners that we know that we work with, who are not every single food assistance provider, but it is by far most of those in partnership with the government. We can give them information about what resources are available to them. And so these networks that we've built allow us to both get information out quickly, as well as was shared, the pulse survey to take information in. And so in emergencies, I think that's definitely something that we have to lean on. I also am doing everything that I can to equip our colleagues and our partners, both in government and outside of government, with the information that they need to combat misinformation and also refer partners and residents to services. Because I think about, the families that are experiencing food insecurity for the first time. And so as we shared, 80% of our partners are seeing people who don't know how to access food, don't know if they are eligible for these services. That's why we need to make sure that the graphics and the email lists or the websites that we've been putting out with information are disseminated as widely as they can be, so that if people see on their neighborhood listserv that here's a resource, here's where you can go, it also combats the stigma that comes from asking from support. If it's not just a particular, the people who have always been seeking food assistance and that concept, but instead everybody is looking for support. Obviously, we'll be leaning into our community food assistance grant partnerships, as well as our existing contracts, as mechanisms to quickly infuse financial resources into those networks. And so, I think we will take the dollars that we have and apply them strategically across many different organizations and strategies. but I think it's going to be challenging, and there's a lot that remains to be unseen, but we will continue listening and collaborating and ask for your partnership in making sure that those resources get out to constituents as widely as possible.
Thank you so much. I'm going to yield to Councilmember Sales, followed by Councilmember Lukey.
And thank you to our chair for, spearheading this effort following the pandemic and continuing to build upon this model to now help even more families. In looking at your presentation and all the wonderful videos, are those being shared on social media as well? Oh, very good, very good. I just wanted to ask a quick question about the food delivery service and how residents can opt in. We know that, with the surge of ICE in our communities, we heard that there were folks who were not feeling comfortable accessing the food distribution events. And with this innovative model, how are we sharing this option with residents, and how can they opt in for delivery versus pickup?
Yes. So in making our recommendations for the community food assistant grant programs, we specifically look not just at providers who offer services in those underserved zip codes, but also those that offer things like home delivery, because we have seen that as a significant demand that is growing. So I think that's one way that we're using the data that we're collecting to then inform the financial investments that we make. We're also seeing through that Pulse survey that proxy pickups have been significantly growing in popularity. And so working with our partners to ensure that they understand that it's okay to have someone pick up 2 households worth of items, and if that's what the family needs to get the support that they're seeking. We're also exploring expansion of those retail partnerships where there are gift cards or one-time use vouchers. A lot of our programs are set up to be long-term, but can we pivot them to be short-term supports to serve a larger population as well? And so I think those are some of the things that we're thinking about, of how can we provide short-term support. And it's challenging to budget, both for us as well as for our food assistance providers, when you don't know if you'll need to do this for a week or for multiple months. And so I think we are trying to be nimble, but think both a year in advance and a week in advance and a day in advance at the same time. But I agree with you completely that the delivery options are important. And we're also, just to get at your earlier question, looking at organizations that expressly have partnerships in place with immigrant services organizations and that do deep work in that population, as well as with unhoused community, recognizing that there are unique and expanding food assistance needs there.
Thank you. Given that November 1st marks, the day when SNAP recipients won't be getting their benefits, are we considering any screening methods to ensure that we are serving the neediest of the neediest, given that we have limited resources, limited food supplies? Just wanted to, I know that we try to shy away from any screening, to not prevent anyone from accessing, but as we're looking at the shortages, just wanted to know if anything's been taken under consideration.
So a number of the distributions are specific to populations. So the Capital Area Food Bank's distributions, I know that MANA and So What Else also are putting up distributions that are specifically for those that are impacted by the shutdown, federal workers and contractors. I think that it is important to have some distributions that are focusing on supporting particular groups in our community. But at the same time, I think we also have built a network that has a wide variety of different operating mechanisms. And so we won't be giving additional guidance to our grantees at this time on restricting services, but that's certainly something that that we can keep in mind. But I think, if anything, we're striving to reduce barriers and documentation requirements for support, both because it slows down distributions and is really time intensive, but also it has served as a barrier to people seeking support. One thing that we were encouraged by was the Capital Area Food Bank's Hunger Report did ask questions around what types of information people are comfortable giving, and those lined up quite nicely with with our expectations of data collection. So asking for home zip code is probably, I think, the most strict piece that we have, just to make sure that public dollars are going towards county residents.
Okay, my last question is about the Maryland Market Money Program. What is the cap? Because I believe there was a $20 cap placed on that back over the summer, and just wanted to know if that's changed or...
So that has gone back and forth a little bit with the fluctuations in available funding. And it also varies across jurisdictions. So though it's a state program, Montgomery County puts more money into that program than a lot of other counties do. And so that has been a factor at county markets, that oftentimes the cap has been higher than it is in other places. I believe that it is $20 now. And so it had been higher in other times, but it also had been down to, I think, $10 for a period. And so I did have been working really closely with their incredible team to understand what it actually looks like on the ground. And so last November, there was about $20,000 worth of SNAP purchases made in Montgomery County farmers markets, with about $17,000 worth of matching purchases that were made. And so that's a benchmark that we're using. Most of the markets close for the winter. So at least from a farmer's market perspective, we have not a long season ahead of us to try to mitigate the impacts, because I think we also need to remember that it's not just the residents, it's the vendors and the farmers and the retail businesses that we need to keep in mind. And I've asked our state partners to help us identify which zip codes usually have the greatest amount of SNAP redemption, so that we can understand not just where the need is, but where our economy might be struggling too.
Yes, and keeping in mind that District 5 still does not have access to a farmer's market, and just keeping in mind the geographic barriers to accessing this program. I know that we're looking at the demographics of those seeking food donations. I don't know if you've started tracking the demographics or the of the actual farms that we're sourcing food from, and any partnerships to ensure our small and minority-owned farmers are not getting left out.
Yes, so we get financial reports from all of our grantees that we had a very dedicated intern this summer who helped sift through all those to really understand where are the purchases coming from, and to gather data from that. And that's where a lot of the numbers like that you saw, that 23% of the CFA funds were purchasing from county farms. And it is, I think, 30 farms total that are in farm to food bank alone. So certainly there are larger producers that probably sell more, but on the whole, our local producers are definitely seeing the investment that we're making in their work.
Thank you. Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you. And speaking of our small and minority farmers, I want to apologize. I did not get to go on the AfriThrive tour in June because I ended up having surgery, but certainly appreciate everything Trufina and her crew are doing out there. I had a conversation last night at an event with someone who now mercifully has a new job, but had been laid off early on in the federal, I don't know what to call it, meltdown. So it's a good day, good word for today. And talking about food insecurity, and again, with folks who maybe have not had to avail themselves of these services before, one of the things that he mentioned was, ways that if you have a friend or a family member in that situation and they are able to do that, and pointing them in the right direction. And again, saying, hey, someday you can pay it forward, right? Someday you can volunteer, someday you can, right? But right now, this is for you, and this is available for you, and we want to help you, and sort of finding ways to talk to those folks for whom this might be the first time they've ever even had to look, and be in this position, and know that they can in fact give back later when things change and stabilize, knock on wood. But I think that's important in how we all talk about this too. How many year-round farmers markets are there in Montgomery County? I know Olney's is, but I don't know how common that is.
That's a good question. I will have to get back to you on the specific number because I don't want to guess. But the majority of them, at least that participate in Maryland Market Money, are seasonal. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that the purchasing in December of last year across the program was about $10,000. So so it's still there, but most of them do close.
Okay. And I know that the slide said that there were 9 that take it, but I don't know how many total we have overall in the county, and what we can do to better encourage them to participate in the program. Again, to Councilmember Sales's point, East County doesn't have access, right? So to a farmer's market. So what can we do to help marry the need with the services? And even if it's just something seasonal that we can help stand up over there to meet that need, then that's one step in the right direction, and getting more of the markets able to take the money helps ensure better outcomes overall. So
yes, yeah, and we do regularly talk with Maryland Market Money about that. I think there are just because the Maryland Market Money is not operating, some of the farmers markets do it on their own. So I think it does function outside of that program. And I think there's 23 markets countywide. Okay. But I think that's also where I'm not sure how many of them are year round. Right. But I do know that that's where the mobile markets and other strategies are particularly important. And a lot of our school-based food assistance programs operate markets at the schools. So I think that's where the one size fits all is not our strategy, because it's a layering effect of how can we reach people in a wide variety of settings with a wide variety of products, building partnerships so that they can access the services that are most beneficial to them. Related to connecting people with services who may not know that they're there, I shared this at the press conference earlier this week, but I just want to emphasize that we're very proud of the fact that the networks that we have built and the information sharing pathways are critically important right now. And so the Capital Area Food Bank's hunger report showed that in Montgomery County, each year over the past 3 years when we have been doing this work, we have been reaching more of our food insecure population, whereas across the region, that is not the same trend. And so I think especially people who've never sought assistance for the first time, or many who haven't since they were children or haven't in many years for their family, there is both getting the information about what is available, but also that it is open to them. Because I think I get a lot of emails from our provider partners who say the biggest question is, can I come? And so we want to make sure that it's not just this is happening, but you can be there. And I think to your point, the third piece of fighting the stigma of, and you are welcome, and this is here for you, and that it is something you should, take advantage of to support your family.
Yeah, and I thank you for the data points, because I did notice that in the data slides, as you were speaking, you did note that 100% of the zip codes have now been reached, which is incredible. And it was a small gap, but you closed the gap, and that's what matters. And this is just a final question, and it's just because of sheer curiosity. But one of the videos was showing, I think it was at Loiterman, the program there, and there were lots of marigolds in the picture, which aren't edible for the most part. I know there's a couple varieties that are, but for the most part, they are not to be. So are they planted in order to keep other things out of the garden? Right, okay, so I wanted to point that out because during the video was talking about how much produce was produced, but there were these gorgeous flowers everywhere. And if you don't grow things, you may not know that marigolds, in addition to being toxic to eat, are a repellent for things that like to eat our produce. So, okay, thank you.
Yes, across the board, and I think we also see really that's something that the students there will learn about too, which I think is really meaningful. So thank you for pointing that out.
One thing I wanted to add up to your previous question about access. So one of the things we monitor is also the site visits that we get in our food resource calendar. This is the main way that our partners are broadcasting their distributions, both time and date and where locations and all those details around their unique various distributions. And so we see that on a weekly basis, we get roughly around 1,000 unique visits to the calendar. And so it's one of the ways we've leveraged sort of the back end of the website since we've that food resource calendar has come over OFSR this year. So.
Thank you so much. Just a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up by 3 o'clock for sure. So on the outcome measurements, which are so important, my gosh, I've seen the evolution of this, and where we are now is so wonderfully advanced from where we were. Because before, many organizations, it felt like we're sort of flying blind, but now we have definitive data that can support them. But how, in your assessment, is the administrative capacity of those organizations to be able to provide outcome data to you all that you can then feed into the broader outcome data for the overall county? I know all organizations have different levels of sophistication and capacity. I think we've come far, but I'd love to hear more on your thoughts on how far we've come and how far we need to go.
Yes, that is the literally multi-million-dollar question, I think, in terms of how do we ensure that we are getting the information that we need to ensure proper stewardship of dollars and understand where there are gaps and where we need to make additional investments. But also, when do we overburden our partners or potentially deter participants by gathering too much data? And so I think that is something that we regularly seek feedback from our partners on. And so we have regular listening sessions with our various grantee groups to hear from them on, this isn't really a number I can actually get, or, but then also I would like to know this because the information they're gathering is also really helpful to their organizational planning and to their overall programs beyond just this specific grant. And so the peer learning circles that we've created with partnership of the Food Council are spaces where they can connect with each other because they're the real experts on how data collection works and what are their best practices for reporting so that they can troubleshoot that together. And layer that with technical assistance, both one-on-one as well as with trainings that will help them then have robust data that informs and shapes their programs. And also something that we want to work towards is how can we encourage our partners to secure other sources of funding. And so the data is important both to understand what you're spending, but more importantly, to tell the story of what you're doing, to then be able to seek private foundation money or, and also across our common impact metrics, be able to showcase everything that is being accomplished, or at least a piece of that. And then the resident feedback loops also give them the qualitative data that's really important of, I didn't like this thing that has been in the box, this product that's been in the box every week. And these are the things that our families are looking for too. So I think, again, it's that layered approach of a wide variety of data collection strategies that we are still building. But I think we also need to think about, especially as resources become tighter, how can we create ways that our partner organizations can work together and share resources so that they're not required to spend a disproportionate amount of their time and money on the management of the money and the data itself. But and so I think that's still a question that's being asked, not just in the food sector, but in nonprofits in general, of how can we give them the resources that they need to also work together and share some of that work so that it is not duplicative across the entire sector.
Thank you. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that in 2023, we gave out a food assistance provider survey that we've now, is a biannual survey that we do to understand the landscape across all food assistance partners. So we ask questions about their staffing, their food sourcing, their funding for their operations. And in that, we also ask about their data capacity. So we ask them about their staffing and who does the data quality, how is the data being collected, how do they feel their organization runs and uses and leverages data. And so we just released our 2025 FAP census. And so now we're collecting that information and we'll analyze it and provide a report. And I think that's another way in which we're leveraging this information sort of in the more long term to both see the before and after and whether organizations have moved through that. I think another strategy has been just leveraging the standardization of reporting requirements so that partners can anticipate and know that with the funding from the county, they know what they'll be asked from the very beginning and adjust their operations and access any type of support and technical assistance that we have.
Thank you. So connected to that, this is more of a comment, but I think now as we have continued to evolve, administrative capacity for a lot of these organizations continues to be a challenge. And again, there's a wide range of the level of administrative capacity among organizations, but it's garbage in, garbage out. So we want to make sure that we're providing them with the infrastructure necessary, because while obviously we want them to be able to provide direct services, spend money directly on food, I think that's a role that your all's office has played, but can play even more moving forward, because that will help strengthen the overall system, which I think would be fabulous. Just last couple of thoughts, and Councilmember Sales touched upon this, and I don't want to go into great detail for obvious reasons, but needless to say, the changes in immigration policy at the federal level have compounded the need to change the course of how we operate in a variety of different ways. And so just know that we appreciate and respect those changes and want to give you all the support that you all need to be able to continue to make them, because the most important thing is that we're reaching the people that need these services the most, not where they came from or where they were born. So thank you for that continued leadership. And then finally, so I think one of the things, and this is more global, and I remember when I first started as a youth development worker, working for the Latin American Youth Center, youth development worker was not a classification of profession or position in our federal government. It was like, people were doing it, but it didn't exist. This work is so profound and sophisticated and intricate and requires a level of expertise that draws on multiple areas of expertise. So I would and I want to make sure we're training and preparing the next wave of frontline staff members, farmers, people who are out there connecting to social services and being very thoughtful in our approach, even people who are perfecting AI and technology that we can better utilize to be able to reach more people more quickly. So I would love to, with all that to say, I would love to see you guys work more with the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, and yes, and many other of our providers, because this is an area where we need to continue to recruit the best and the brightest to do this work, and that's what will sustain this work beyond all of us being here. So just want to make that plug and acknowledge what an important profession this is that you all are helping to shepherd. And Ms. Bruskin, you get the final word. Any thoughts on that or anything else you want to share before we adjourn?
Thank you so much. I wanted to speak just very briefly to the changes in SNAP eligibility, benefit amount calculation. I think that's where our nutrition benefit organization partners are critically important, as well as the extensive staff that we have within county government that does that work. I don't think that it's a coincidence that at the time that there are hurdles being built to make SNAP more complicated to apply for, receive, maintain, maximize benefit amount is the time that there's disinvestment in human capacity to support that work. And so I think we have to make sure that we don't allow our SNAP support network to destabilize in any way. If anything, we need to strengthen our investment in that work. And I think it also speaks to what you were saying so kindly about partnership with grant management. And, there's 6 of us, I think maybe 7 now total on our team. And it takes a lot of partnership to make an investment shine. And so I think that's just huge credit to my colleagues who are dedicated and talented on the OFSR team to really help our partners make sure that they can succeed with what they're doing. And related to economic development, I couldn't agree more. I think that is something that we first had to establish what we were doing and why. And I personally have always believed that when questions come up about, well, nobody else is doing this work, why is Montgomery County leaning into this work? I think the question should really be, why are those other communities not doing this work? Because it is so foundational. And often, even in the emergency postings that you've seen around the shutdown and federal disruptions, food isn't always necessarily listed as a critical resource and information area. And so I think that leads me to my final comment, which is just deep appreciation for you, Councilmember Albornoz, because this work has been successful in large part due to your leadership and, of course, that of your colleagues on council and in the executive branch. But this work has been made possible because people see that it's important and that you have centered it as a way to support your community, recognizing that if our families and our children and our residents overall don't have the nutrition support that they need, our community can't succeed and can't thrive. And so I think you've laid tremendous groundwork in the work that you've done here, and I've been grateful to have had the opportunity to be a part of that. So thank you for everything that you have done, and to you, all of your colleagues, for what we will navigate next.
Love it. Well, thank you for the partnership. It's been a true team effort. I always leave the sessions we have with you all hungry. So I will satisfy that urge in a little bit. But thank you all so much. Thank you, Ms. Clemens-Johnson, for helping to shepherd this very informative and important session. And with that, we are adjourned.
Can I share that just like 40 minutes ago, the governor announced a state of emergency and appropriating $10 million to continue SNAP through November.
Wow.
So that's what I was showing you.
Oh, my goodness.
So he just announced 40 minutes, so no details right now, but it will help wrap up the end of this conversation.
No, I'll just clarify that it is $10 million for the Food Assistance Network. So it will go to the Capital Area Food Bank and Maryland Food Bank probably. But I think we don't know exactly where it will go, but that there will be resources invested in the community, unfortunately not through the SNAP mechanism. So that I think is rolling out quickly, but it is, I think, a resource. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, with that, thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We are adjourned. Yeah, of course.